You're listening to Female Founders with Claire Bartlett, the podcast that tells you what it is really like to be a female founder in today's world. We share invaluable insights through personal journeys and real-life business experiences, highlighting the highs and the lows so you can move forward in your business with ease. I am passionate to share with you the realities of business and give you the strategies and simple steps you need to truly succeed with your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. Managing your business finances can feel overwhelming, but Xero simplifies it all and gives you the power to keep your books in order and your mind on growth. Xero have offered an amazing 50% discount on your first 3 months with them. So if you'd like to take advantage of this amazing deal, just search refer.xero.com/female founders or follow the link in the show notes. Don't forget to give this show a follow to make sure you never miss an episode and share it with any incredible female founders you know. But for now, let's jump into this week's episode. Hello and welcome to Female Founders. I'm your host, Claire Bartlett, and today I'm super excited to welcome Amanda Hutchinson, the creative force behind AKP Branding Stories, a company specialising in branding photography for entrepreneurs and creative business owners. With a passion for capturing the essence of each brand through storytelling, Amanda's photography is about so much more than just the images. It's about conveying the personality and the heart of the business. And as I've personally used her services, I can vouch for how amazing you are, Amanda. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. And wow, what an intro.
Well, it's well deserved and true. And I think that's what makes you stand out from the crowd, isn't it? That you're not just there just to capture, the same old images as everyone else. You really do care about the person behind the image, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And I could work with 100 coaches and they've all got different stories and different ways of working and different personalities. So they don't all need the same images. And it's the same across any of the industries. And I love that creativity and that variety.
Well, I've had a number of professional photo shoots in my business since starting. Yours was my most recent one. And you just made me feel really just so at ease in front of the camera. We had a laugh as we were doing it, and the images that have come out are way above and beyond anything that I've ever had before. But the thing that really made you stand out to me is when we had a call beforehand, didn't we, where we sort of spoke about what I was looking to get from it. And you asked me about my life outside of my business and the things that I enjoy doing. And then we went, we used that in some of the images. We used tools and props for things that I just enjoy in the outside world. And nobody had, all the other ones can be so corporate, I think. And I am not a corporate brand at all. So yeah, I really loved that.
And it's important because people buy from people. We hear it all of the time. Yeah. And yet so many people don't show who they are. And so how are you going to set yourself apart if you're not showing your actual personality and your loves and your likes? And, I remember from when me and my husband had our wedding photography business, my husband used to write a monthly cocktail blog. Nothing to do with photography. It's just that, we like hosting, and we would get inquiries from particularly grooms as a result of his old-fashioned recipe on the blog. Nothing to do with weddings, nothing to do with wedding photography, but it showed who we were as a couple and who my husband is as a person. Yeah. And that's what resonated among the thousands and thousands of other photographers out there. And that's what, your shoot should be about, is showing who you are.
Yeah, exactly. So talking about, you've just hinted there that you had a photography business slightly different to where you are today. So my first question to you is, can you think back to a pivotal moment in your life that has led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so my background is crisis management, emergency response and counterterrorism. So every day,
different.
Yeah. So every day was thinking, what's the worst that could happen? Right, let's put a plan in place for it, or responding to things. And so photography was a creative outlet that just took away some of that doom and gloom. And when we got married, um, I didn't really want to leave the wedding industry. And what is the polar opposite of all that doom and gloom? Weddings. So
Yeah.
wedding photography was then a really natural kind of progression into that. But I quickly realized that wedding vendors weren't showing their faces, and I was taking photos of them setting up on wedding days and sharing it. And brand photography 11 years ago wasn't as big in the UK as it is now, and so it was a very easy like business niche to go into.
Mm.
Actually loved it so much more than the weddings. So the wedding photography, I shot my last wedding officially last year. I stayed in it longer than I had planned, but COVID sort of threw a bit of a wobble into into my exit from weddings. But
Yeah.
brand photography has been a bigger part of my business for such a long time. So I just love it more.
Yeah. It's like you say though, isn't it? Because the images that we use for our businesses is the window into who we are, and people do buy from people, so it's so important to show who we are behind the business. And I
Yeah.
talk a lot about becoming the face of your brand, and and I think in such a crowded space now, there's more people in business than ever before,
Mm.
and there's more people likely doing what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So you have to show who you are, your personality and your face. People want to get to know you personally before they spend their money with you.
Yeah, and particularly in a service-based industry, like it can be
Mm,
quite an investment that someone's making, not just financially, but like time and energy.
hmm
And they want to know that they're making the right investment, and they need to do that by getting to know the person that they're going to part that money and that time with. So yeah,
yeah.
it is really kind of important to be showing who you are and
Mm,
sharing those backstories. Like, I share that I come from a corporate background, and that was probably another pivotal moment, was being passed over. Like, what finally made me go, I'm not doing this anymore, I quit. And it was pretty much I quit, was getting passed over for promotion and finding that my graduate had been promoted to the same level as me, because I didn't smash my target in a year that we'd found out that we likely couldn't have children, and I'd had a big health
mm,
scare. So I had a lot going on. I'd hit my target, but I hadn't smashed it. And so my bonus was halved. I wasn't given the promotion. My graduate, who had 2 years over my 10 years experience, was given the same job title as me. And I just went,
yeah.
I'm done. And as soon as that smaller bonus hit my bank account, handed my notice in and went, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And I walked out. Um, but
This is
it was,
we're just commodities to the bigger businesses, aren't we? To the corporates, you are just a number. And I think mine was not to the same level, but I had an awakening moment where I was like, oh, actually, I don't matter to you
yeah,
at all. And that's exactly the same time I was like, I'm done. And I set up my first business, because we don't want to spend our whole lives working for someone else when they don't care about us,
yeah,
you know.
you know, being self-employed, it's not always a walk in the park. Like, it
Mm-mm.
has its challenges, but I wouldn't swap those challenges to go back and be employed. I actually don't know whether or not I am employable anymore. Having realised I had 5 line managers in 7 years, I do wonder if maybe I was the issue and not the managers. But
Hmm.
um, I, yeah, you're right. We're just a number, and I was like, I don't need this in my life.
Yeah. And I bet you've never looked back.
No. And I left 6 months. Well, so it was June 2019 that I left, having spent a whole career telling people and showing people how to respond and plan for emergencies. And then, of course, COVID hit. Um,
Yeah.
so it was quite timely. But I did get a call from my director saying, we need someone with your experience. Can you come back as a consultant? And I was like, no, I'd rather be an out of work photographer.
Love that. Well done. So obviously you were doing weddings initially, and then but obviously COVID hit, so no weddings were happening, or they were incredibly different to how we had always,
Oh, they were
known weddings
wild.
before.
Yeah, it was strange. But my like brand photography started within a year of me doing
Okay.
weddings. So I ran the two side by side. I
Hmm.
knew in sort of 2019, when I was handing my notice in, that weddings were only really going to be in my life for another year. Turned out that into another 4 years, because all of my weddings from 2020 got postponed into 2021. And out of that kind of fear of not having any more work coming in, I was taking on new wedding bookings, even though my
Yeah.
family wasn't in it. But yeah, COVID weddings they were strange, and I was pregnant at the time as well. So we went through IVF in COVID. That was while everyone was baking banana bread, we went through IVF, and I came out of the other side going, "Ta-da! Here's a baby."
Well, congratulations.
But it was a really weird, like taking photos of people wearing masks and there being like 12, you know,
Yeah, very strange.
it was so bizarre. It feels
Yeah,
like a lifetime ago. But brand shoots couldn't happen either, because
yeah,
you weren't allowed to see people. Like there were doorstop shoots happening, but that was technically, not allowed. And so, being an ex risk manager, I was very much like, no, I'm following the rules. I'm very, very rule following person.
hmm
And also having going through IVF at the time, I was like, I don't want to be
yeah.
around
Well, of
people.
course, you're not going to take
Yeah.
any risks, are you? Yeah.
They then changed the rules halfway through that you could do B2B shoots as long as you had risk assessments in place. And I did all of mine outside. So I just shot with a longer lens. So I was further away from people. I wasn't hugging anyone. I wasn't like, literally, I was like, hi, I'm here, waving from a
Yeah,
distance. So I could pick up some work, but there were definitely some wobbles in that time of going, oh my God, what have I done? Right.
yeah.
I've
Well, I
left.
think there was for everybody
Yeah.
in every area of our lives
Yeah.
during COVID. It made us all question a lot of things, didn't it?
Yeah. It's the closest I've come to wondering if I should throw the towel in and get a job.
Okay. So in those moments, you were questioning, yeah,
Yeah.
whether you'd made a
And
mistake, I suppose. In
yeah, because I was like, I've got no, I mean, my couples were amazing. Like they were very much of the mindset of, well, we've saved the money to pay for you now. So we've still got jobs and we know that this is your income. So they were paying most of their final balances like I
oh,
do. So I wasn't completely like without cash flow, but no new brand work was coming in, and Jack was born the day they lifted restrictions. So I then had 15 weddings to shoot in an 18-week period,
when
weeks
you just
after
had,
birth,
yeah.
and 40 brand shoots
Oh my
to
god.
do.
Oh my
So
gosh.
there was definitely some questions of like, what on earth have I done? So I actually wasn't then bringing in a lot of new income until the start of 2022, because I
Yeah,
had
because I
so
suppose a lot of
much
that
work
work you were doing there had already been,
to pay for.
majority of it had been paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just
Gosh.
a bit mad. But like I said, it's the closest I've come to wanting to throw the towel in. But I'm glad I didn't, and I wouldn't.
Mm.
I mean, I don't want to go through another pandemic, but I wouldn't change.
Yeah. No, thank you.
I'm done with that, thank you.
No. But yeah, I mean, it just goes to show the absolute roller coaster, doesn't it, of being in business, and also that sometimes the success of the business is completely out of your hands. The pandemic came, none of us ever saw that coming, and the impact that had on you personally and professionally was a lot to deal with. So especially with going through, IVF and having your little one. So absolute hats off for you for just cracking on and carrying on. And now you're through the other side of it, and you've got an absolute amazing business that's helping so many other business owners truly show who they are. So it must be a very rewarding
Yeah,
business.
yeah, it is, and also I can set my own like agenda and time scale, like my
Yeah.
timetable. So, you know, I do my shoots 2 days a week. Um, Jack's at nursery 3 days a week, so I do all of my kind of calls and admin on the day in between.
Mm-hmm.
Do a little bit outside when he's not at nursery, but for the majority of it, I do a 3 day week.
Yeah.
I've been able to build that because I was building the business for the last 11 years. I knew when I was leaving, I wanted a sustainable business that would be able to ride storms like that. Coming from a resilience background, it was
Yeah.
important for me to have a resilient business, because
Yeah. Yeah.
not every, no, especially in the wedding industry, not everybody came out unscathed. Lots and lots of businesses went under,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the foundations that they needed for that, be it personal or business resilience.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the trends that I saw, a lot of businesses managed to ride the wave through the pandemic because there was a lot of support out there from the government and things. But it's now and the years after, well, yeah, not enough, but there was some. But the businesses now are feeling the pains of that because, all of that support is needing to be paid back and those sorts of things. So there's more businesses suffering now because of the repercussions of it. So yeah, it's a really difficult one. But I think with the photography and the brand photography, it's a difficult one because some people don't value it sometimes. When you are trying to sell your business, whatever it may be that you're trying to sell, you need good imagery and you need to be showing yourself to succeed because of the cost of living crisis we're in currently, the touch points, I think it used to be about 7 touch points. People used to need to see about you or hear about you about 7 times. I think it's about 27 times now that we need to be put in front of someone before they trust us enough to actually spend their money with us. So that's a lot of posts and content that we're having to create and, a lot of information on the website. And to do all of those effectively, we need excellent images and a whole portfolio of assets that we can share. And I think sometimes people don't value that enough and actually how much that can assist your business in growing. But I also think the other reason why people don't sometimes look at this is purely confidence.
Yeah.
They feel so uncomfortable about having a brand shoot that is just all cameras on them. And I know in the beginning when my first shoot, in fact, I was looking through pictures the other day of my first ever branding shoot, and you can see on my face how uncomfortable I was in those. I wasn't even the type of person that took selfies, let alone had a whole photo shoot. So you can see the difference between the shots that I had with you, Amanda, to the shots that I'd had all those years ago is a completely different person. But what advice would you give if someone is knowing that they need it for their business, but terrified of actually taking that leap? So, is there any steps they can take to ease them into it?
Yeah. So the first thing is to find a photographer you feel really comfortable with, because if you feel on edge with that photographer, or you hear them talking on socials and you find their voice annoying or anything like that, you're just not going to trust them enough to put you at ease. You want to be finding a photographer who you can share what you're not confident about. Like, my clients tell me, well, I don't know, like, I don't like this side of my face, or I don't like my arms, or I'm post baby, I'm still carrying a bit of baby weight. And I'm like, okay, like, you've been able to share that with me, so I can work with that to make sure that we're not accentuating those areas. Because when we look at our photos, we are automatically drawn to the areas we like least about ourselves.
Yeah.
Forget everything else. Think about when you have a group photo taken with you and your friends. You're not looking at what your friends look like. You're looking straight at you going, do I look okay? And then you might look at your friends afterwards, but you're
That's so true.
at just yourself to make sure that you are okay.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. And in fact, I know if someone takes a phone photo of me, chances are I'm not going to like it. So I think people are like, oh, do you think of yourself? It's like, I don't care, post it anyway, because I know I'm not going to like it and I'll never have any content go out there. But I'm never seen at events because I hide from selfies. So that's the first thing, is work with somebody that you really trust and feel comfortable with, because they will put you at ease. You might still have those hang-ups and those like wobbles in the run up to your shoot, but you'll know that you are in the absolute safest of hands and that they will be your cheerleader. The next thing is kind of thinking a bit bigger than you. So whilst you might have these body confidence issues, no one else is really noticing those. Yes, there are trolls out there, but they are not the majority of people that are following you on social media. The more you put yourself in their shoes and the fact that you are going to help them, the more you'll realize that that shoot's not about you. It's about all the people that you can impact, and it's about them. And they don't know you exist and that you can help them if you are not visible and showing your face. So it's flipping its head and going, oh my God, I'm having a bad hair day, I don't want to show up. And then going, actually, I'm going to do it anyway, because if one person hears this message and it's going to help them, then I've done my job.
Then it's worthwhile, yeah. Yeah, I love that so much. And I think that's the transformation I went through personally. So in the beginning, before I could afford a photo shoot, and I didn't even really know about them at this time. But like I said, I'd never been the type of person that took selfies. I had no images of just me at all. So I started to just trying to get used to taking selfies of myself and having some images of just me. So if I had the house to myself, I might take a few pictures and things like that. I could have sat there and analysed them all into the recycling bin. I could have said, "Oh God, no, that's awful," and got rid of them all. But instead, what I did is I didn't look at them. I just turned my phone off and walked away. So I ended up with loads of images on my phone that potentially I could use, and I had to reframe my mindset to I'm looking at this and seeing all these issues, but this is actually just what the rest of the world see every day. Like they're not picking these apart like I am. So, in the beginning, I'd take the ones that I like the most. So even with the shoot with you, for instance, there's some images that I looked at instantly and was like, oh, I really like those ones. So they'll be the first ones that I use because they're the ones I'm in love with the most. But actually, and I remember you saying this to me in the call, which I loved, is that you need to know, Claire, that every image I send you at the end is because I think you look amazing in those pictures. And I love that because we, like you've said, are so quick to judge ourselves and pick ourselves apart. But actually, no one else is doing that. No one else sees that bad hair day. They just see you. So you have to get comfortable with sharing images that you don't think are your best image. But it doesn't matter because no one else will notice those tiny little flaws.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that you have to build confidence in. So start with the images that you find that you love, and then gradually work your way down to ones that there's images that I share now that probably 10 years ago I would never ever have shared because I just thought, oh no, my hair's not perfect, or I haven't got my lipstick on, or whatever these excuses are that you tell yourself. But now I take a picture, I just share it because nobody well, and I said this to you earlier, if people are there to judge my appearance, then they're in the wrong space, and I don't want them in my audience anyway.
Yeah.
So, but it is a mindset change. You have to work on your mindset and reframe how you talk to yourself about these things,
Mm.
for sure.
Think about if your best friend was showing you the photos from their shoot, you wouldn't pick like you wouldn't nitpick those. So we
Exactly.
need to start to we've had this ingrained in us from such an early age. Don't be vain, don't put yourself in the limelight, don't be the center of attention, be quiet, unassuming, don't rock the boat. I was on, this would have been probably last year now, I was on the tube and there was a family there. They must have been tourists because nobody else takes photos on the tube. And it was a mum, dad, daughter, and they were taking photos. And one of the parents said to the little girl, she must have been about 5 years old, "Oh no, don't smile like that. Do a nice smile." And I just thought,
Oh,
oh
God.
God, like from such an early age, like that sort of stuff sticks with us. Like we
Yeah.
grew up in an era where celebrities that were size 10 had their cellulite circled on their legs in magazines and going, oh my God, look how much she's ballooned. And
Yeah.
it's no wonder that we look at ourselves with this magnifying glass. I had a client years ago say to me, "Oh, I don't like my photos, my pores are too big." And I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, I've never looked at somebody before and thought, "Oh my God, I can see their skin pores."
Wow.
But that was
Yeah.
stopping her from having photos because she thought her pores were too big. I was like, "Who's told you that you've got big pores?" I can't even see mine. Like,
It's
but we
just
hold
bizarre,
these.
the stories that we tell ourselves.
And they usually come from some throwaway comment that somebody else has given.
Yeah.
Like another
Yeah.
client said to me, "Oh, I don't smile with my mouth open because my ex-boyfriend told me I had a cute, ugly smile." I was like, "He's an
Oh,
ex for a reason.
yes.
His opinions do not need to take up rent in your head."
Yeah.
Like, it's just bizarre. But also, selfies are such a knack. I'm
Mm.
terrible at taking selfies. The angle you take them at, it's all forehead and nose. That is
Yeah.
not a flattering angle.
No.
And it's like, and there's a so if you're judging your appearance on your ability to take a selfie, know that as a professional photographer with 11 years experience, I can't take a good selfie, but I can take a good photo with a camera with proper lighting, proper posing, proper angles. Don't judge yourself. Don't judge how you look on your selfies.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. I think it's just about becoming comfortable to be in front of a lens, isn't it? And like you said, I mean, I talk about this so often, the way that we talk to ourselves internally and also subconsciously, we don't even know half the time that we're doing it anymore because it's so ingrained in us. But you would never, ever verbalize that about your best friend or anyone else because we can be vicious to ourselves and it impacts, yes, we're talking about confidence in photography, but actually it impacts your confidence across the board in your business. You can't sell your services and sell your business well if you don't believe in yourself or don't have that confidence in yourself. So it's an area that I'm so passionate about helping people conquer and just becoming aware of some of the stupid things we say to ourselves that, and like you said, it will be from a tiny comment that someone has thrown to you at some point with probably no ill intention. It was just a joke, but you picked up on that and it's then festered in your mind.
Yeah.
And the only way to overcome these things is to prove to yourself different. So for me, having these photo shoots with you, Amanda, and putting myself out there makes me every time my confidence builds because I look at that images or whatever's come of that event. I'm like, no, it's good. Like these are really good, and that's me on those images. So if I think they're good, then other people are going to think they're great because I've still got a limited, level of belief about myself. There's, you never look at yourself and think, God, I'm perfect. And if you do, then, all hail to you. But
Yeah. That's up to you.
yeah,
But it's true. But also, the first time you share one of those images and you get this flurry of comments, people going, "Oh my God, great image! I look like you
yeah,
look great!" Like, can really see it's you. Like, if you're having a bad day or a wobble, go and read those comments.
yes,
Go and bask in your cheerleaders because that's what they're doing. And your brand photographer is just showing you what everybody else sees.
exactly. This is the thing, isn't it? Yeah. I love that. But yeah, I talk about creating yourself a pick me up pack, which when you're on the confidence journey, and it's literally things like that. So when you get loads of positive comments or you get some good feedback from someone, put it all in one place. So when you are having a low day, you can just find it all really easily and scroll through it,
I
and
love
it gives
that.
you that little injection of confidence that you need in whatever moment you might be in. But yeah, you're right. When I first started sharing the images, I got loads of love and it felt amazing. And I was really proud of the images. And
Yeah.
that's all down to your handiwork, really, Amanda.
But also, but you engaged with the whole process. You were on board from day one. You got involved with the planning. You showed up. You came with the right mindset. You
Mm,
had wobbles on the way or there. I don't know. You turned up, and embraced it and went right. We're here to create the content.
mm,
And I can't do that if my clients aren't on that kind of
yeah,
bus with me.
yeah. It's a mutual thing, I suppose.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's absolutely a collaboration. Like I can turn up and I'll take great images, but they might be a bit vanilla. They might not show who you are. If you engage with your photographer, and you do the things that they tell you to do, you bring the props that they say, and you trust them. That's when the magic happens because you know your brand and your personality better than anybody. Like the
Yeah.
photographer will draw that out of you, but you need to be involved with it.
Mm. But you need to be open and authentic in the first place. So when we had those discovery calls, if I didn't be completely honest and transparent with you, you then wouldn't have known what areas to focus on in the shoot and what props to ask me to bring. So I suppose it's about having the confidence in yourself initially to say, this is who I am. Can you please portray this in the images? And then trusting you that you will do a good job with it.
And actually,
Yeah.
that being authentic to yourself, I mean, the word authentic is bandied around a lot at the moment, but being
Mm,
true to yourself will also set the tone for the shoot. So if you are someone who is introverted and you're very behind the scenes and you don't like to be the big center of attention, you're not going to have photos of you, you know, dancing through the streets of the middle of London and throwing balloons and party poppers around, because that's not who you are.
Yeah.
And there's a there's been a bit of probably just within the photography world about people saying, oh, you need to have these bold, bright, fun images of you. And it's like, but if that's not who you are, then that's really disingenuous to put
Yeah.
photos out like that. And then when people come and work with you, they go, oh, actually, you know, you're really quiet and unassuming and really gentle, but all of these photos are like big and bold and brashy. And that's
Yeah.
and vice versa. Like, you have to have photos that represent who you are and how you work in your business and your personality. And so, if that means photos of you working at a laptop, that's how you work with your clients. If I never had a photo of me with my camera in my hand, it'd be a bit weird. I'm a
Yes.
photographer. It's my
Yeah.
trade, the trade. Um, so yeah, that's it's probably a soapbox I can jump on, because there's definitely been some digs within photographers of like, oh, you shouldn't have these laptop shots. I'm like, but that's how people work. And
That's the living truth. Yeah.
brand photography is about storytelling. Now, if
Yeah.
you never work at your laptop, then no, don't have the laptop shots. You know, you're not gonna have a yoga instructor having photos with all the camera kit, because it's not how they work.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that being really true to yourself and being open and honest with your photographer is a fundamental need for a successful.
Mm. So looking back at all the brands that I mean, you must have seen hundreds of different brands now and
Yeah,
different industries. Is there a particular one that stands out that's, been really fun or just really surprised you?
I think the one that surprised me recently, because I don't photograph that many men, um,
Mm.
and I don't know why that is. Probably because my portfolio is sort of self-fulfilling prophecy, really, isn't it? Like, I photograph lots of women, so I show lots of women, so men don't really come to me.
Yeah.
But I had a shoot recently, and it was a heavy metal guitarist. Now, for anyone who's seen my Instagram feed, nothing in my branding
Yeah, I would say.
screams heavy metal. I am very light and airy, and I was like, and I know him, so that's probably why he booked me. But I was like, what on earth possessed you to
Yeah.
to book a shoot with me? And it was because he wanted to come across as friendly and welcoming, because he also teaches guitar lessons. And the parents of 8-year-old children do not want a screaming, heavy metal guitarist
Right.
type image.
Yeah.
They want to look for someone who isn't going to terrify their child, is a safe pair of hands, who's friendly and warm. And so we created this shoot in Camden along the locks and the canals, where we had all of this like grungy urban vibe. There was graffiti, it was a bit more edgy. Camden's where his band plays, but
Mm.
the water and the trees, it had that softer, more welcoming feel to it. We
Yeah.
put guitars in, we had him sat playing, we had an electric guitar and an acoustic guitar, so we had the different types of imagery. We thought about what he was wearing, so he did have band t-shirts on, but they were appropriate. There wasn't any bad language on them or like sort of death metal type vibes.
Mm.
So they would have that kind of cool vibe that probably the pre-teens are looking for, but it was also, sort of
Safe
appealing
for
to
the
the
parents.
parents who are going to be paying for it. So it was really fun to take those two quite polarizing aspects of him
Yeah.
into those imagery, and just fun to shoot something different. Like, like, men come with their own confidence issues and baggage. Like, they're not
Yeah, of course.
um, but it's a different body to work with. There's different posing that you do for it.
Mm.
So yeah, that was definitely a kind of fun and interesting one that is against the norm for me.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that you had to bring these two, like I say, really polarizing um, elements of himself and his life and put them together. And you did that so successfully. So
Yeah,
was he happy with the images?
yeah, really happy.
Good,
Yeah.
good. Oh, so it must be really amazing to every day would be different for you, doing the same process ultimately,
Yeah.
but you're trying to portray such different things in all of the images. It must keep it really sort of vibrant and interesting for you, which is brilliant, because sometimes, you know, when you work for yourself, you need to keep the interest and the passion for what you're doing. And if it's very, very monotonous, I imagine that potentially that interest can wane. But for you, it must be so, you just never know what you're going to get next. So,
Yeah.
but you didn't wake up that morning thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to get a heavy metal
No,
shoot today.
and like, for me especially, I need that variety and creativity. I think
Yeah,
that's what drew me into crisis management, because you literally didn't know what was going to be at the end of it.
yeah, true.
And so I needed that within my business. And I think perhaps that's maybe where my love of weddings sort of faded, because they got very samey.
Yeah,
Um, you know, whereas with brands, like I said, even if I photograph 100 business coaches, they're all different, and I make like it's a real like focus of mine to make sure that I never photograph the same like two clients within the same industry um,
mm,
in the same location, because ultimately if you've got if you've got two hairdressers, you don't want them to have the same imagery, because
yeah,
people might be looking comparing them between each other, like
mm,
people do shop around and look for their competitors, so you don't want your competitors to have the same imagery of you. Like, some of the poses might be the same, there's only so many ways that you can move a body, but the props and the background and the clothing's different, and that
yeah.
storytelling is different. So I really make sure that when I do my multi-shoot days, I don't have the same businesses all on one day.
But it's interesting you say that, because so that's how our shoot was. You book out a beautiful venue for the day, and then you have different clients throughout the day. And I have seen someone else who's in my space online who were already connected, and I can tell from her images that actually, oh, we were on the same shoot, but the angles and the different elements that you've used for her, because of her personality and her traits and her business, are so different that actually
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any of them have ever had the same background, even though it is the same venue,
Yeah.
because you're taking them from such different angles. And I found that really interesting. I'm like, oh, I think that's, but even I'm questioning whether it's the same place because it looks so different. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just think that's really clever. But it just goes to show that actually the backgrounds and the positions that you put me in, and the images that came out for me really reflect who I am,
Mhm.
but the other ones really reflect who she was.
Yeah.
And you can do that with such skill in the same venue, but they can be such different shoots. And I think that's brilliant. And that's exactly what, and that's because we both felt comfortable and we were able to share exactly who we are.
Mm. It's one of
And
the
I have
questions,
never had that advice before.
and it was one of the questions you asked me.
Yeah, it was.
Are there other people in my business on this shoot day? And I was like,
Yeah,
there are other kind of coaches or mentors, but they don't do what you do. They
yeah,
are different. Like you know, who did we have on there? We had, we had launch, sort of marketing, PR, um, business, like sales strategy. Like, you were all different. So that
yeah,
you know I knew actually, and I pick these venues for a reason, that there's enough variety in there that I don't go, oh my god, I've used every inch of this place already.
yeah,
How am I gonna sort of divvy this up? Like,
yeah,
I am very strategic in how I pick my locations to make sure that I can do that variety, because you know I what I don't want is for someone to look at my feed and go, oh, it's the same set of stairs in Notting Hill. It's the same doorway in Notting Hill on
yeah.
every single shoot. I'm like, that it
That's
just, yeah.
That's the thing, isn't it? We do want, because it's showing our personality, we do want them to be different. And if they're all the same backdrop, even though we might not be doing the same business, realistically, it's strange because the online space can be quite small. Like we can all
Yeah.
be connected with each other. And if we all had the same image with the exact same backdrop, it, I think, actually strips away a bit of our personality, which I think was the concern and why I asked, who else is on the shoot. But actually, you've handled that so well, and that would never be a concern of mine. Again, I've never done a day shoot like this before. They've always just been specifically for us. And I think it's a genius model because, you get to use all these amazing spaces, but personalize them so well for the individuals that are attending. So, but talking about advice and how you sort of use these spaces,
Mm.
what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given in business?
So I think actually, and it was the thing that spurred me to think about quitting the day job, because I always thought I was just going to run them in tandem, was
Mm.
came from my old sales director who said, feel the fear and do it anyway.
That's my favourite line. I say that
And
all the time.
I shared it once, and I shared it on my Facebook. Um, and then the week that I actually ended up leaving, it came up as a memory. You know, how Facebook,
Wow.
do you remember this? And it was like 3 years prior. And it came up, and it was in that week that was my final week in my job. And I was like, yeah, that probably is like, and I've been blessed that I've had so much amazing advice from so many different people. So it's
Mm.
difficult to pinpoint and name kind of each one, but that's probably that was the biggest kickstart piece of advice to me. And I do try and remember it when there are things that I'm doing that's different, like, when I've launched things and I've moved into like the education part of my business. It's like
Mm.
I'd go from being like, oh, who am I to do this, to, well, just feel like it's a valid feeling to be scared, but don't let it stop you, because fear
Yeah.
is pay my mortgage.
Yeah. I love that. Love that. And that, like I said, that's a saying that I say all the time to myself and to anyone who will listen, because it's so true. Like you said, it's very, it's expected to, we're going to get those feelings, especially if it's something new that you've not done before. You are going to be scared to do it and feel the fear, but you can't let that limit you. You have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable and start pushing yourself out there. And if something, you feel the fear and you do it anyway that first time, the next time you do it, you won't feel so much fear and it'll be a lot easier. And as it goes on, and this is one of the things I talk about in confidence building all the time, is that yes, it will be scary in that first time, the first time you do whatever it is that you're wanting to do, but it gets easier and easier, and then you get further and further away from your comfort zone until actually you're in a completely different place. That comfort zone's long gone. So I love that. I love that that's the one that
And
helps you.
I sort of a spin off from that is somebody said to me, well, what's the worst that could happen? Which is, I mean, I can go down that rabbit hole. We did our wills recently, and they were like, okay, so we need to plan. And I was like, exactly how far down this like worst case scenario planning do you want me to go? Because I've got a
You can
career.
go on forever.
But they were like, what's the worst that could happen? And so I said, and so then what's the worst that could happen if that happens? And you realize that, like, if you say you're scared about going live,
Mm-hmm.
what's the worst that could happen? Okay, nobody watches. Okay, so nobody saw it. No one died. No one kills you. No one
Mm.
jumps through the screen and wrang your neck, or you get a troll. Okay, that's more on them. It's gonna hurt. Not gonna lie, it's gonna feel horrible. There's a whole load of business coaches at the moment that are now turning those into t-shirt slogans to make money for charity. So
Yeah, I've seen that.
you can definitely spin it. But also that's one person. They're not paying your mortgage. Like,
Mm-hmm.
engage with it if you want, boost the algorithm, or delete it. Like, we have we can't let these things stop us. And it is really hard. It is really hard to overcome. I'm not gonna lie to you and say, oh yeah, you just wake up one day and go, woohoo, I'm confident. Like,
Yeah.
it's not. But confidence can grow.
Mm-hmm.
This is exactly how you work with your clients. You are living proof that you can go from being really unconfident to being more confident in your field. But confidence doesn't mean necessarily going and standing in front of thousands and thousands of people.
No.
Like, confidence could just be, I'm going to go and have my photos taken, or I'm going to go live on my stories and I'm actually going to turn the camera around so you can see my face,
Yeah.
rather than just showing my dog running off into the distance, like.
Yeah. Confidence means different things to different people, and also there's different levels of it. And I don't feel like there's ever an end to the journey with confidence. I don't think anybody can be 100% confident all of the time, because there will always be new situations and new scenarios that you find yourself in. But I think through small steps and pushing through the initial fear, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, you can start making those changes, and then they lead. You never know where they lead, and that's what I love about it all. So,
and that's why it must be so amazing doing what you do, to see that transformation in your clients,
yeah,
and even people, reading your posts or listening to the podcast episodes, like, just that these little light bulb moments that go off and that impact that you're having is insane.
yeah, it's very rewarding, and I think it's something that I just find it such a shame, because it should come so naturally to all of us, and we're all born with perfect confidence. As little babies and children, we run around, absolute zero fear on anything.
As a mum of a 3-year-old, I can absolutely guarantee that we are born with bucket loads of confidence and
Exactly.
fear.
Yeah.
My child, he can fly.
Yeah, but somewhere through our lives, every time we have these slightly awkward or negative situations, we hand over a bit of our confidence each time until we're left with none ourselves. And it's just such a shame. And it's time to just, go and collect it all back and be like, no, that's my confidence. Thank you. I'll have that back now. And yeah, so it's really rewarding. But I want to ask you one final question. You did allude to this earlier, which is through the pandemic, you were questioning, whether you'd made the right decision. But since you've got through all of that, and your business has really started to take off, has there been any moments in those times where you've wanted to quit?
I think probably the pandemic, and then having that mad sort of rush of work to
Yeah.
post having a baby. It's kind of put things into perspective. So, had that not have all happened, absolutely, I think there'd have been times in the last couple of years where I've gone, I can't do this. I need to change the job. But having that zero income coming in, or like new income coming in, and then also just the exhaustion of shooting and not having that time in the first few weeks of Jack's life, they were my biggest, like, I could quite easily quit right now. But I didn't have the energy to go and find a new job. So, and also I was just like, yeah, I was like, and I don't have the cash flow to pay all these people back if I do quit. So I've got to muddle through it, and I'm glad I did, because I came out the other end far, far stronger as a result. And so when there are wobbles, when I've had, and I don't get many difficult clients, I'm very, very blessed. I think I've got a very good filter now to know if someone's not going to be a good fit for me.
Yeah.
But there have been times where there's been difficult clients where I thought, oh God, well, this would be easier in a job. And I've gone, no, it wouldn't. Like, this is a tiny, tiny moment. It's nothing compared to COVID and that kind of first 3-4 months of, Jack's life. I can weather this through. That's not to say that in the future there aren't going to be other things that happen and I go, oh my God, I could just throw the towel in. But I do kind of try and keep things in perspective.
Yeah.
And that also comes from a background in crisis management, where I've seen the worst things that could happen to someone. Like, I was part of the response for Tottenham riots. I saw people lose absolutely everything. And it does just help. I come from a military family. It helps just rain check some of those wobbles.
Yeah. I love that.
And
I love
pure stubbornness of the fact that there are definitely people in my previous career who thought I was mad and that I would be coming back with my tail between my legs. And nothing spurs me on than being able to stick my fingers up to them and go, no, I made it work.
I love that. Love that. I think it's so I think it's brilliant that the skills that you learn in that previous role, which are so seemingly so far away from where you are today, but actually the skills still see you true today and still benefit you. And yeah, I can't imagine the sort of things that you were dealing with there. So a slightly difficult client today probably doesn't feel like such a big deal when you've
My,
seen and dealt with other things.
my first week was the week Baby P hit the news.
Oh, God.
So then you're just like, okay, that's that
Yeah.
does put things, and it put things into perspective when I moved into the corporate world, because people would be stressing about year-end targets, and I'd be like, guys, like this is not stressful compared to local authority emergency planning. Like you just need to, like, this year end comes every year.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be news to you.
It shouldn't be a surprise that it's happening.
It happens every year. So I am very lucky and fortunate that by having that background, coming from a military family, it has given me the kind of skills to put things into perspective a little bit, be resilient, and just push through. And stubbornness. I've got a really strong core of stubbornness.
I love that. Amazing. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me today. If people are interested in a shoot with you or just finding out more and having a conversation with you, where can they find you?
Mainly on Instagram, if I'm honest. Come and hang out with me on Instagram at AKP Branding Stories. You'll see a lot of me walking to shoots and going, hey, I'm on my way to a shoot, and then I'll forget to show you behind the scenes, but you'll at least be able to kind of get an insight. Thankfully, my clients do a lot of behind the scenes too. But yeah, you'll find me on Instagram most of the time.
Perfect. Well, I will share the links in the show notes anyway, so people can find you. But yeah, just thank you so much, Amanda. Really lovely insight into the world of branding photography. And thank you for making me feel so comfortable on my shoot. I really did appreciate it. And thank you to the listeners for listening in. I hope you found it really useful. And I will see all of you guys next week. I hope you've enjoyed today's episode, which was brought to you by Xero Accounting Software, a champion of female entrepreneurs and a proud sponsor of the Female Founders podcast. If you're running a small business and you're dreaming big, then Xero is here to help make those dreams a reality. Xero is all about supporting women like you, who are not just running businesses, but are also changing the game. So whether you're just starting out or you're scaling up, join a global community of female founders who trust Xero to manage their finances efficiently. Just visit refer.xero.com/female founders to learn more. But for now, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share this episode with all the incredible female founders you know. And together, let's change what it means to be a female founder in today's world.